Hello together. At first, a big thank you to the Wireless IoT team because we heard this the first time that a supplier do a joint presentation with his partner together. Many thanks for that opportunity. Well, like talked before, my name is Thomas Hein. I'm head of marketing by KATHREIN Solutions, and I'm very happy to have a valuable partner at my side. Sebastian, please.
Thanks a lot. Also from my side, I'm SebastianHolzschuh. I'm managing director at KATHREIN Solutions, and I'm very happy to be here together on stage with you. Without further ado, I'd say we start with a presentation today, as said, the cooling chain with RFID in a pharmaceutical environment. We are happy to be allowed to show us the customer that we do in this project currently. It's Daiichi Sankyo. It's located near Munich in Bavaria. And it's a pharmaceutical company that was created in 2006 with the merger of Daiichi and Sankyo, two Japanese pharmaceutical companies. And Daiichi is a customer from, stated early 2008, 2007 around, so it's a long-term customer for us. And the indoor tracking that we're looking at today is the youngest project that we're doing on customer side. Short introduction, KATHREIN is a consultancy company. We're mainly around focusing to the extended supply chain for all areas of producing companies. So we're starting with the product lifecycle management, so product engineering, down to the machine integration and also to the logistics within the companies and within the environment of inter-plant transportation. And this is where then I hand over to you, Thomas.
To do the short presentation, I have only a few words about KATHREIN Solutions. I hope that most of you know KATHREIN Solutions. KATHREIN is a German manufacturer of RFID reader, a bright range of RFID readers and a bright range of RFID antennas and our own RTLS systems. This is a USP of the KATHREIN portfolio because we are the only manufacturer who have a bright range of RFID hardware and an RTLS software. Further, we offer huge software packages to make it really easy for our partners to set up the first time our RFID application and to implement it in main systems. That's also used by our partner Encom. So far about KATHREIN Solutions. Sebastian, please.
Okay, thanks a lot. So next, starting with the main requirements that we faced during the initial project phase. The customer itself is really dedicated to the SAP environment. So the first idea was to create an indoor tracking system that can be aligned and can be integrated with SAP environment very tightly. Also, they are already doing some of their production steps with SAP manufacturing. So this was the base setup that we had there. Of course, since it's pharmaceutical environment, we had to meet all the GXP relevant use cases and all the requirements that are faced with in this environment. Next step, and then again, this was the point where we chose the guys of KATHREIN as our partner. We needed reliable hardware that can be used in the cold chain environment. And also we are focusing, our customers focusing on 100% reading accuracy, which made things a little complicated, but I guess, Thomas, this is then what you will talk about. And the last step on our side was it has to be easy to use and easy to maintain. And also we're talking about SAP environment, and most of you should know SAP environment. In some cases, this is not the easiest software to adapt and not the easiest software to use. But also together with KATHREIN, especially the crosstalk application suite, the integration environment was pretty easy to handle, I'd say. I forgot about that one. Scalability. So a customer is currently using this environment in a very dedicated space of the logistics, and is going to roll this out after the go live in several other buildings. So scalability was also one of the main requirements that we had at the beginning of the project. So.
Well, from the KATHREIN side, we have to face three big challenges. The biggest challenge was the metal environment, because they produce a lot of RF reflection in this area, because every wall, every roof of the cooling area, storage area was made of metal. So we have a lot of RF reflection. This was the first problem we have to solve. The second problem was monitoring. That was the second challenge we have to see is how the palette was built by the employers, because we don't can affect it, the kind how they put the trays where we stored the pharmaceuticals in, how they place it on the pallet, because we have to find a way to find the best angle of the smart label antenna and angle to the RFID antenna. That was the second challenge, how we solved that. And that was a labeling problem. And the monitoring in the cool room, what means
No,
that?
you just mixed them up.
I have mixed. Okay, thank you. So far from my side, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, in that case, we jump to the next one, the project approach. So we discussed whether it's a good idea to just go in step by step. But I think most of you have already done digitalization projects and in the one or the other way. So basically, it's pretty much standard. You start with a scoping workshop to define what you want to do and how it's going to be. You go via a blueprint phase where you specify in detail what you have to do. And then at some point you start an implementation phase. And the most important thing, I think, especially at the beginning, was that we started with the evaluation of the hardware very, very early. So discussing about which type of hardware we can use, especially with, as just heard, regarding the issues and the problems that we have within the environment. So we started with a hardware proof of concept very, very early. Even before designing the blueprint itself. So while starting the blueprint, we already knew which kind and which type of hardware we were using within the project. So this was all set right at the very beginning. We then gave the customer some weeks to try and test the application or the hardware itself in their environment. So we were pretty sure that everything will work out. So within the implementation phase itself, regards to the software development, hardware installation and all the stuff, we had some repeating steps, only to make it more and more dependent throughout the development phase. And currently, we're not live yet. We're in the project finalization, so all the QS and the quality processes are running at the moment. Next step, indeed, is go live at the end of the year. But the customer already is planning the rollout. So currently we have a phase that nearly all the hardware is installed. Yeah. Nearly all the hardware is integrated, and also the integration of the SAP application in direction to sub-ERP to integrate all of the master data, and the process data is also being tested. Also, we brought you some small impressions from the project itself. I just clicked that up so we can jump in. So first is the RFID visualization itself. So if you look around in the area where your logistics or internal logistics is transporting all the stuff, at every RFID gate that we place, we have a small monitor that is showing the information, what has been read at the very moment by the gate. So every employee that's related to logistics and transports all the goods really sees at each and every single walk through the gates what was read. Is it okay? Because I know if I transport 40 or 50 of the vials and cartridges, so we have this step-by-step approach to inform everybody that's related to the working process what is currently going on. Second thing is interactive flow plan. This is one thing that will start in a little smaller project, very project start. So currently, this is the maximum that we can do at the moment. We can integrate machine information, RFID information, and in that case, storage areas, and also the transportation information, what's happening throughout the whole plant. So at the customer side, we're starting with the RFID gates, so the read events, but not only the read events, but also the hardware health status. So if anything in the hardware, if a reader with 4 antennas is missing one of the antennas, the hardware will start to blink in red to inform the maintenance guys that there is a hardware problem. Also, the logistics can see when was the last read, in what direction, and what was read. So we can jump from this application also in the gate view applications. Next one is some sort of process visualization, process flow or material flow visualization. So for pharmaceuticals, but not also for pharmaceuticals, but every other customer, it might be interesting to see how was the material flow throughout my whole environment. So starting with the goods income at the very, very first. Over all of the process steps that can be done, especially in RFID, we can go through the same areas, the same gates multiple times. But in that case, with the cooling, you can also have the seconds, or in that case, the seconds that the material is outside of the cooling chain. So with the defined areas, so my material can, for instance, be in the overall process 2 hours outside of the cooling chain. We're pretty cool with that one, even if 304 seconds at the very end. We're pretty fine with that. But also we can have a forecast because we know the transportation from A to B takes about 2 minutes. So if only 1 minute is left, we know you can't transport it out because then it's scrapped. So in that case, we have we have all the process steps in, so we can split batches, like very, very different approaches. We can merge different materials together, and also meeting the GXP requirement. In that case, the problem is if you mix two batches or 2 tags, you shall always use the time of the material that was outside the cooling chain the longest to be sure that your product at the very end will be a good product. So these are the main application sets. As said, we integrated that in the already existing environment. So the whole IT administration already knows how to do what in that case, and this as the end user environment for the logistics team. With that, I guess, Thomas?
Yeah. We start during the blueprint phase from the RFID side with a pre-evaluation in our test and application center in Stephanskirchen nearby Rosenheim to get a first idea what kind of hardware setup will be worked. So we decide also to use our smart label with 2 inlays. So we are able, based on the setup, that we can labeling around the corner and also with the opposite corner. So it's independent in what direction the employers put the trays on the pallet. So we are sure that we can read every RFID smart label on the side. But every inlay of each of these trays have the same ID, so we get detailed information what the trace was currently picked up there. Further, we got first impression what kind of antennas we have to use and what kind of configuration of the RFID reader we have to use. With this first ID, we go at the customer on site to improve, to confirm this first setup, because you remember about the huge amount of reflection in this area, and we can find a way how we can only read the specific RFID transponder and not every transponder in the cooling area. Because there's a lot of misunderstanding in the market that the most people are thinking the challenge is to read everything in our RFID field, but it isn't the case. The challenge is only, in most cases, to read a specific RFID transponder, not every transponder who is in near of the RFID antenna. And based on this approach, we are able to find a setup which fits the project requirements at that. So far, from about the RFID proof of concept, we are also very, very happy about the idea of Daiichi Sankyo, because they were thinking about also to use the KATHREIN RTLS systems to get more detailed logistic movement information independent of stationary read points RFID based, because we are able with our RTLS systems with a accuracy of less 30 centimeters to detect where our pallets are or any other assets are in the storage area. Yeah, so far from my side, I think that will be enough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we had in the project itself, as said before, we have 2 different application servers. So one is the KATHREIN Crosstalk application server, where all the management software and hardware management is being done with. And the other is the sub-manufacturing environment. So those 2 basically are everything the customer needs in that case, so they can run standalone. They can even run without sub-ERP in that case as an offline component. Still, we managed to integrate everything, so starting with the label print itself, which has been done by the customer right out of sub-ERP. We receive the tag information, so we initialize those tags within our environment, so especially to focus that only the tags that are used within our environment can be scanned and can be tracked. Especially to have some the employee badges not being shown in the whole movement process. And I set the 100% reading accuracy. So it's not only to show the employee that all the texts were read in the correct way, but also to have the system in some way analyze and maybe also have any automated solution if what happens if one tag was not read correctly, or what happens if a tag was too many tags were read. So we implemented a logic together. Some part was in the crosstalk environment, some part was in the SAP environment, that allowed us to create transportation groups. So with the very first, I print 48 tags. So I created a transportation group with this tag because it's related to the same batch. So we have one transportation group for one batch, and right from the beginning when we start to transport, we figure if this transportation group is completed, because we know it has to be transported completely, and so we can go through the whole process, and at every single read point and at every single endpoint where we know that we have this transportation group, but one of the tags is missing, we indicate this information, so QS can check, but also we have an automatic correction process in that area. So this is what we are testing next week. Basically, there should be no system failure interfering with the read and movement. So with this impression, a short recap from my side, I'd say. Yep. As said before, the proof of concept was extremely beneficial. And everybody of you who's starting thinking about RFID digitalization project or trying to set some of the projects up, start proof of concept, start hardware very, very, very early, because this also has a big influence on the project, what project approach you have to choose, depending on your environment, depending on the hardware that you can use. So I said in our environment it was the best decision to have it right from the start. I think it was the second or third week when we told the customer that next week we need to start with the proof of concept. In that case, in our special case, since we are within this environment, we were very happy how fast we could integrate the crosstalk and the KATHREIN hardware, even with the standard protocols. So crosstalk and the SAP environment both can use REST protocol, so we have a pretty easy integration way. Third one is the great collaboration between all participants. So not only our cooperation, because we do know each other a very, very long time now, but also the customer, because as said from the very first day, with starting proof of concept, we're not talking only direction software or only direction hardware, but always about the whole thing. It was very clear for the customer, and so this is where they started to get happy, that we have an idea on what we do and how we do it. Reliable and a great RFID technology, I think that speaks for itself. If you're afraid that your hardware has to be replaced during the next 6 months because of the environment, choose wisely. And as said, we currently, or the customer is currently being in the build phase for the next 2 areas where the RFID has or will be rolled out. With the information that we created in the proof of concept and the blueprint phase, they indeed started changing the architectural setup of the new buildings to comply with the hardware. So the cooling chambers are now adjusted to already have the RFID hardware being fit in the walls itself. So this was a big problem at the very, very beginning for the first cooling chambers, because we had no way to build the hardware directly to the wall because of obvious reasons, losing the cooling. And even, I think this is not up to date. The slides are a little bit older. So hardware availability at the moment is no problem anymore. No. But still it makes sense, since you at a very, very early stage of the project can start, of the software project, can start to integrate the hardware. Do it early. I can't say that enough. Just start with hardware POCs in that case. So, after our tests, where we tried, we We're finished after 30 minutes, so I guess we did that right. We just have about 1 minute left. We thank you very much for your attention, and we are happy to discussing with you. So.
Of KATHREIN Solutions. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.